Hey everybody, this is Eric from GameShampoo.com, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about our Game of the Year 2012 features, specifically the Best Xbox 360 Exclusive Title Awards category, which went up yesterday, and just kind of some of the thought processes that go into something like this, because I am the only one responsible for bringing together all these Game of the Year features, and there's going to end up being something like 20 categories that I'm going to have to be thinking about. And you know, everybody has their own biases and preferences for what a video game should be, how it should play, and so I felt like I should maybe shed a little bit of light, since I am the one solely responsible for making all these decisions as to what is going through my mind when I'm making these choices, and you know, maybe that way you can kind of see a little more of what the process is like for me, since there's not really anybody here to debate with or bounce my ideas off of. Could be easy to just say like, oh well, you know, I like Fez a lot, so there it is, that's the best Xbox 360 game of the year, without really thinking about it objectively, I guess. So let's dive right into it. Got a notepad here, and it's got pages of notes and stuff like that about all the games that have come out this year, at least all the ones that I think are great, are good, and been kind of going back and revisiting games like Fez that I played a long time ago, and maybe need to refresh myself on a little bit. And I've come down to 4 titles for the nominees for the best Xbox 360 exclusive title of the year. And keep in mind, this is you know, exclusive, so you're not going to see Mark of the Ninja, you're not going to see Dishonored or Borderlands or anything like that on this list. We have other categories for those. And my choices are Halo 4, Forza Horizon, Fez, and Trials Evolution. And so I guess let's start with the big one, start with Halo 4. So I came at this game from kind of a weird place, and you know, it's the fourth title in the series, the 4th numbered title, and really it's what I think like the 7th. You had, you know, Halo 1, 2, 3, Reach, ODST, Halo Wars, Anniversary. So I guess you could say it's the 8th title, including Anniversary. And you know, they're getting up there to that point where they really have to start changing some things around, and with a new developer, a new story, a whole new trilogy starting out, a new planet, I guess this was really the opportunity to really shift what Halo is all about, but keep it, you know, keep the core intact, keep that gameplay, the kind of that balance between the different weapons, the different vehicles, the different enemies and shields and stuff like that, but then put that into an interesting new location with a new story. And I don't really feel like they delivered completely on that. There was a new story, but it was all but, you know, it was not as fleshed out as it should have been in the game. There was a lot of external media, books, comics, that kind of stuff that you really had to read if you wanted to get the most out of that. And so that aspect was pretty disappointing. Going in as somebody who does not have the time or will really to read any of the Halo books or any of that external fiction, you know, the story to me was just like, you're on this strange planet, and now there's this bad guy, and he wants to kill all the humans for reasons, and now you go and do a quick time event and he's dead at the end. It didn't really feel like the start of a trilogy. It didn't really even feel like, you know, anything really happened of consequence in the game to me. And yeah, just story was kind of a weak point for me, and And in a way, so is the gameplay, even though it was still really strong. It's still, you know, fighting the same enemies. You're fighting the Covenant most of the time, and you're fighting them with Covenant and human weapons. The new weapons are, in a lot of ways, really similar to a lot of the old weapons. But there are some cool new weapons, too. Like the sticky detonator was neat. A few of the Promethean rifles were pretty cool. And when you play through it in co-op, it is a ton of fun still. I played through it in single player and in co-op. I had a great time in both. You know, the multiplayer is fantastic. I think that the competitive stuff in that game is probably the best that it's been in the entire series. There's just so many options. There's so many modes, so many ways to customize yourself, so many levels to gain. There's more flexible loadout editors, and so really in competitive mode, it's just a complete package. And then there's the Spartan Ops co-op, which is, you know, I don't think it's quite as solid as Firefight is, or maybe not. Let's say not as timeless as Firefight is, just because it's something that you can jump into and tweak whatever settings you want and just play it for an hour or two. And Spartan Ops doesn't quite have that flexibility, but nonetheless, it is a super cool concept, and I like what they're doing with it so far. You know, we're halfway through the season now, and I've been trying to keep up as best as I can, and you know, played the latest mission today, or yesterday, I guess, while I was making the list, and I think it's pretty cool. So, you know, I can rag on the game for maybe not changing quite as much as I would have hoped it would have, but at the same time, you know, it's certainly a solid game. You know, great even. And then we are on to Trials Evolution. This was an Xbox Live Arcade release in April, and you know, it's a side-scrolling, almost Excite-Bike styled mixture of racing and physics. You're on a motorcycle, and you have to navigate this course. Or I guess these series of dozens of courses that they have put into the game, and they start out fairly easy, but they quickly ramp up and become quite challenging, and that's kind of the charm of the game, really, is how difficult it is, but how fair it is in that difficulty. And, you know, if you have the skill to pull off a jump, then you can pull it off. It's never random. It never feels like, oh, I just died because, you know, something crazy happened in the back end of the game and I don't know what. It's very fair about how punishing it is, and that makes it very satisfying to play. There are, you know, really varied challenges in the game too. There's, you know, crazy mini games where you're balancing a ball around on your bike, or you're skiing instead of motorbiking, and, you know, tons of variety there. And then there's a huge level editor to boot, which goes into some really crazy depth. Like, I remember messing around with the level editor for a solid, you know, month and a half or so after the game came out, and just getting like really into the creation process, even though what I was creating wasn't necessarily super complex. You know, I was trying to make levels as tough as possible. But a lot of the stuff that's come out of the community is just crazy. You're talking like set piece events scripted into the design of the level, popping off while you're racing through the level. And you know, there are completely different genres other than racing in here, which to me is probably the craziest part of the game, is that there are first-person shooting levels and, you know, like strategy game levels and stuff like that in the user-created level suite. If you just look hard enough for this stuff, it's definitely out there, and it's totally functional, or, you know, at times better than functional. It's pretty good. And there's just, like I said, there's just so much variety. There's dozens of hours of gameplay in here, and they keep expanding upon it too, which is great. They had an expansion come out, I think, over the fall, and there's another one, the End of the World set, that's coming out in a couple days here to coincide with the supposed end of the world, I believe. And it's inspired by the Mayan apocalypse, so that probably will be super difficult. And as great as a lot of the user-created levels are, I think there's just something really pure from a gameplay perspective about the levels that the developers at Red Lynx have created, and there's just something just really inherently satisfying about the way that the game controls and the way that the levels are checkpointed, and just that feeling of beating a really tough level after dying sometimes literally hundreds of times on the same checkpoint. So that's Trials Evolution, I think, in a nutshell. And if you go on the site, if you go on GameShampoo.com/magazine and look at our Xbox 360 Best Exclusive Game of the Year category, you'll see that Trials Evolution was the game that I ended up picking to be the winner of that category, and I think that summarizes why pretty concisely. It's just it's the whole package, really, and it just keeps expanding even without the developers on it. The users expand it, so that was the winner, but let's go into the next two games. Fez also came out in April, also came out on Xbox Live Arcade, and it's just a really colorful, vibrant, creative platformer. It's a 2D platformer, but it's all rendered in 3D for those who have never heard of Fez, and you can actually rotate these 2D environments around. So let's say you're looking at an environment that's a square and it looks like this, and then you rotate it to the side, and there's hidden stuff on the sides that opens up completely new ways to interact with that environment. So it's a really simple but ingenious concept, and they do a lot with it. They create a lot of great puzzles with it, they create a lot of great exploration moments with it, and then in the second half of the game they just take it to a completely different level, and it's almost not even about rotating the levels anymore. It's about these crazy fourth wall breaking puzzles where you're deciphering languages that have been written specifically for the game, or you're scanning QR codes in the game with your phone to solve these ridiculous fourth wall breaking puzzles. And as great as all the gameplay stuff is there, I think that's what makes Fez a really interesting and ultimately really great game, is that it just challenges you to think in new ways that you're not really used to thinking in when you're playing a video game. And so, love Fez, and that's why it is on the list. And I guess I should say, there are some caveats to the game too that ensured that it wasn't quite the game to me that Trials Evolution was, and that's why it didn't win the Game of the Year award in that category. Anyway, there are no enemies in the entire game. There are just these collectibles, and once you go through an area, you've gotten all the collectibles. There's no enemies, there's really nothing to do, but you do have to oftentimes backtrack back to a fast travel point or a certain NPC or something like that to progress with the game. So there are kind of these lulls in the game that kind of break up the experience in a weird way, but like I said, I did really, really enjoy it. And then there's Forza Horizon, and that's just a damn good racing game, really. It's great handling, it's a big open world, there's tons of events to participate in. The events have a good variety to them, there's a good suite of cars, tons and tons of cars, any type of handling model that you could possibly dream of. And the presentation is great, the graphics are beautiful, that festival atmosphere that they go for really comes across better here than it does in most games, really. And I think that the musical choices that they've made with the soundtrack really complement that well. It's a fun soundtrack for a really fun racing game. It's just that, the depth of that gameplay and the variety on it and the potential for expansion in the future, excuse me, in the future, isn't quite what it is in Trials Evolution, which again is why that title lost out to it as well. So I guess that's those are some of my thoughts on the best Xbox 360 exclusive game of the year. I'm gonna try and do videos of this, probably not for every category because some of them are a little more minor than this big sweeping best Xbox game kind of thing, but I'm doing best Wii U exclusive, that just went up on the site today, and we're going to be doing best PlayStation 3 exclusive tomorrow. We're going to be doing some handheld stuff after that, and so I'm going to keep putting up videos, I think, explaining my processes for those and kind of explaining where I'm coming from a little more than I could get across in an article of that size. And yeah, really excited playing through some really, really great games right now, and the decisions are going to be tough, but hopefully these videos and the articles can help you understand where I'm coming from and why these games are so amazing, and honestly you should probably just buy all of them anyway. So yeah, thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe for more Game of the Year content.